Judges, you may.
Thank you, Carol. Good afternoon. I'm Jen Howell. I'm still, and I have the pleasure of serving as your chief judge today. We'll have the judges introduce themselves first. I am the co-executive director of Virginia Civics, the home of the Virginia We the People program, and my co-judges are.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Tinder, and I'm an attorney from Charleston, West Virginia.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Caudillo, Senior Advisor with the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative in Washington, D.C.
My name is Sophia Obiena. I'm Anna Rose. And I'm Sadie Case. Our coach is BJ DeZerbo.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So no surprise on what question we're going to ask you today. We're going to go with question number 2. So I'll read it and then you can start when you're ready. Quote, no society, certainly not a large and heterogeneous one, can fail in time to explode if it is deprived of the arts of compromise. No good society can be unprincipled, and no viable society can be principle ridden. End quote. Do you agree or disagree with this opinion? What compromises were made at the Constitutional Convention of 1787? What are the benefits and costs of those compromises? How would you distinguish between someone who is unprincipled and someone who is principle ridden? You can begin when you're ready.
We agree with this opinion because it shows that a successful state needs a balanced society with both freedom and structure. If a government gave too much freedom to their people, there wouldn't be any order or control over the situation over a country, both in their government and the safety of the people. However, if a government restricts the power of the people, their citizens would be living a life subject to the power of those in charge, likely consisting of biased news lines, school curriculums, as well as censored communication. We believe that no good society will be able to survive without strict principles set in place, but no, not so strict that freedom is greatly inhibited. An unprincipled society would not be able to contain peace, suffrage, and order, while an overly principled society would dangerously create an unhealthy uniform-based life for its citizens. Without a balance of providing freedom and structure to the citizens of a country, a state would slowly dissolve into chaos.
Some of the major compromises made in the Constitutional Convention of 1787 were the Great Compromise, the Three-Fifths Compromise, and the Electoral College. The New Jersey and Virginia plans led to the Great Compromise, which helped settle the debate of representation in government. The framers came up with the Senate, where 2 people would represent each U.S. state, and the House of Representatives, where the population of each U.S. state would dictate the number of representatives. The Three-Fifths Compromise helped settle the matter of representation with enslaved people. The convention decided that 3/5 of every slave would be counted toward the overall population of their state of residence. Finally, with the Electoral College, the framers compromised on the process of suffrage, allowing the popular election of a president, but on a state-by-state basis. Citizens would vote for a president, with the winner of each state taking all of the state's electoral votes based on the number of seats that the state has in Congress. These major compromises made in the Constitutional Convention of 1787 helped resolve the debates our founders have been attempting to settle since the United States was established.
Some of the benefits from the compromises made in the Constitutional Convention of 1787 was that the compromises helped resolve representation in government, the process of voting, and served as a step in the right direction for a balanced government and country. All states, large and small, agreed with these compromises. These benefits, however, had negative consequences, the largest being prejudice for slaves. The Three-Fifths Compromise was included in the Constitution as Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, stating that only 3 out of 5 slaves would be counted for representation. In comparison, people who were not slaves were all counted. Another negative ratification was the Fugitive Slave Clause, which stated that if a person escapes from slavery to a state that prohibits slavery, the escaped slave would be delivered upon claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due.
There are many differences between unprincipled and principle-ridden people. An unprincipled or free person commonly lives in freedom-based societies where they have personal autonomy. They are guaranteed privileges including freedom of speech, religion, and press, and have the ability to make their own choices for their children's home and lifestyle. A good example of this is the United States, wherein we are able to control our own lives without the government interfering. A person who is strictly ruled or principle-ridden commonly lives closed off from the world because their government has total control over their internal information. Those who are strictly ruled are subject to the will of their governments and lack autonomy. A prominent example of this is North Korea. A major difference between unprincipled and principle-ridden people is the kind of government style under which they live. While principled people commonly live under dictatorship, unprincipled people usually live in democratic and republic-based governments. Therefore, the central reason that unprincipled and principle-ridden people are so different is because of the government style under which they live. That is all. I just swallowed the hype there.
Thank you, guys. All right, we're going to go with some follow-up questions for you. So, why do you think it's so difficult for Americans to compromise on some of today's major issues?
I believe it is difficult for America to compromise on major issues because of the political parties. They are so drastically different, and they're always trying to argue with each other, even if they may slightly agree on opinion, because they're so focused on their political beliefs than focusing on the nation as a whole in some cases.
I agree with my partner. I believe the solution to this would be to add more political parties, like, for example, the Green Party, which believes in LGBTQ equality and eco-friendly beliefs in general.
I agree with both my partners, although I have a differing solution. I believe that a solution to this would be only one party, like Washington said in his farewell address. He believed in only one political party, which would, if we only had one political party, it would make things easier for us to compromise on things rather than differing political parties with different views. If we had all of these different views, it'd be hard for us to finally compromise on something.
An alternative solution is New Zealand. As you've seen with their government, they have several political parties and all have an equal say in their government and have the most diverse government. And if we can follow their steps and allow more political parties to be involved in our government, we may be able to have more of the people's rights and says.
To add on to what my partners
great answer. But we want to get your knowledge on some other questions. You talked about voting rights and a voting system, and of course we have the Electoral College system here that was a compromise that came out of 1787. But there have been discussions about changing that, either changing the aspect of the Electoral College, or by doing away with the Electoral College and just having a popular vote for the president. What's your opinion about that? Do we need to make changes in the Electoral College? And if so, what are they?
I believe that we should keep the Electoral College because if we just had a popular vote, only larger states with larger populations would have a say in the overall presidential election. As you've seen with California, who have several citizens and people there, they would have a much larger say with unlike people in Wyoming who only have over about 500,000 people living there. So if we only had popular election and did away with Electoral College, not everyone would have a say in the overall election.
I agree with my partner. I believe that if we got rid of the Electoral College or changed it to popular vote, we would be disenfranchising the smaller states. But to give an alternative view, James Madison disagreed with the whole idea of the Electoral College. He believed that there should just be we should be going with the citizens by using popular vote.
I agree, and I agree with what my partners are saying to take an also take an alternative view. I think that the winner takes all approach is unfair for people in states that are voting for the opposite party of their electoral college. You can see this with Trump and Hillary's election. Hillary won popular vote, but Trump won the election with his with Electoral College. This is unfair because this is going against Locke's philosophy of the will of the people over the government.
My next question, the next question we have here is, compromise is often called an art. Is this an accurate description? Why or why not?
I believe compromise is an art because it does take a lot of effort and work to be able to compromise on things, especially if you have such opposing opinions. And take, as we said, the Constitutional Convention of 1787, when they're compromising on the Great Compromise, you had two very different beliefs on the legislative branch. You had the Virginia Plan, where they wanted more say with, sorry, my throat's dry. With 12 states, and you had the New Jersey plan who had wanted more say with like population, and because of that, they had a hard time negotiating. When eventually, with their ability to compromise with the Great Compromise, they were able to decide on having a bicameral legislative branch so that both sides would be happy. So I believe it is an art because it does take a lot of work and effort and integrity to be able to agree with someone you solely just don't agree with.
To add on to what my partner said about the compromises during the Constitutional Convention, the Southern states had such a disagreement between the Northern states with slavery and tariffs to actually agree or disagree with the ability or the issue on these pressing matters between something that affects economy and something that affects moral and dignity for human beings in general. Federalist, I believe 45 talks about the 3/5 compromise, 3/5 voting, and that was one of the ways they compromised the whole voting and slavery issue.
I agree with both my partners. I believe that compromise deals with the idea of working together as a whole. And like the founding fathers were able to compromise on things like what my partner said, the Great Compromise, like the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan. They were able to work as a whole to put those two together.
Also, to add on to what my partner said,
we're going to move on to the next questions. We have so many questions for you guys. Okay, so you guys have given us some really good examples of compromises. Some have been better than others. So when do you think a compromise is a good compromise, and when do you think it's a bad compromise?
I believe when a compromise is a good compromise, it's when they're thinking of the nation as a whole, where all people are happy, like with the Great Compromise again. But also, I believe that a bad compromise is when you're disenfranchising minorities, like with the 3/5 Compromise, when they only allowed 3 of every 5 slaves to be counted. That was unfair to the nation because technically they were citizens. Even though they were slaves, they still lived there. They still poured their hard work and blood and shed for our country.
Going off of what my partner said, I believe that a good compromise would be mostly by the people. Like going with Locke's philosophy again, he believed in listening to the people and people's views. If majority of the people want
we got it. Thank you guys. That was awesome. Good job. This was just so much fun to sit down and talk with you guys. And I wish we had so much more time to dive into each one of these questions. I think we all had just a billion questions because we wanted to keep the conversation going. So apologies if we cut you off at any point. We just wanted to, make sure we got to tackle all of these super fun topics. So I'll tell you, you looked way more comfortable today than you were yesterday. Were you more comfortable today?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Could totally tell. So I'm glad we got to that point. You guys both days just really blew us away with how much thought you put in to your presentation and how much research went into your presentation. And I'll tell you, there's so many problems, right? You identified all of the problems that we're up against. And what I loved about your presentation is you were so focused on solutions. When I asked you why you think it's difficult for Americans to compromise, you went straight into solutions mode. And that was great. I mean, that is exactly the kind of thinking that we need now and in the future when you guys are running the government. So I'm pretty sure you guys are going to get there. So just want to say thank you. You guys put so much work into it, and it really showed, and we had a blast with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
First of all, congratulations to your teachers and your coaches and your mentors for doing such an outstanding job in preparing you and educating you. This was a very, very good presentation for all the 10 minutes or however long we were together, 12 minutes that we were with you. I wrote down, you just hit some great points when you talked about freedom and needing structure and balance and then as Jen mentioned, giving us solutions. I think you really must have listened closely to us yesterday when we made some suggestions to you about giving all sides of an issue and giving examples, because we had to stop you. You had so many examples to give and so many sides of the issue and opinions to give. And they were all well thought out and very wise. So let me say in conclusion, congratulations to you. You're inspiring. It's inspiring for us to have the opportunity to engage with you for the past 2 days. And as we said yesterday, you cannot let the leadership skills that you have and the knowledge that you have end in about 30 minutes when this last session is over. You've got to continue to be the good citizens and the leaders in your school and in your communities and in your state. Because if you do that, then our country's going to have a very bright future. Congratulations to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We wish you the best.
I'd like to commend you on an excellent presentation. I wish that the minutes were a little slower because we would have gotten more discussion. I think we could have done this for a long time and we all would have, been happy about it and be able to share ideas, because that's how discourse happens, is this conversation here. We were able to converse and share ideas, share disagreements, share things that come new, or even jump off each other's ideas. And so that's what I love about this program. And I'm glad that you are participating in this program because it gives you the opportunity to look at topics such as, compromise, that was very useful back in 1787. And now it's still as relevant as ever here in 2021, and be able to discuss about these things and about whether it's in artwork and electoral college and all this interesting things. So I commend you on your presentation, on just being able to converse with us. That was a fun conversation and I enjoyed it. And so I encourage you to continue doing this. This is a skill set you'll need, and it's good that you're starting early because we're going to need it. These are conversations and topics that we'll still be battling even by the time you reach voting age. And so we want to make sure that continue doing that effort, because your leadership will be definitely needed during that time. And so I commend you for an excellent presentation once again, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.